So, thank you again for choosing my thesis writing session to do your dissertation. I'm just going to do a quick review of what we have covered in this thesis writing class. So in this session, the first session, we reviewed the handout that was given with the table with the different sections of the thesis. This is how we outlined the sections of the thesis. Each section has a purpose, it has a particular format, and it has specific information that must be included in that section. So the format would be the type of writing, and the purpose would be why we're putting this information in there, as well as the information that is presented will be given in a specific order, a sequence. So all of that is outlined in the table. As you do each section, you'll just do a quick review of what you're supposed to be writing in those sections. We only got to look at the abstract, which we established is a summary, and that is to be done last because that is a summary of the thesis, and you can't do a summary of the thesis before you do the thesis. So that section will be done last. We got to the introduction. Now, for the introduction, there are certain things that need to be established in the introduction. It's the background information, it's the reason, the aims, the objectives. You understand the relevancy, the purpose, and so on. So that was a lot of information about information that needs to be included. So that's how we broke down what each section is about, right? So in order to determine the form of writing in each section and the purpose for the writing in each section, we first have to know what the information is. So when we got to the introduction, we looked at what will be included, and then we started identifying these areas. First, I said that the topic has to be narrowed. So think about it this way. One topic can have so many different branches. So we're talking about hunting. Hunting is a very large topic. So we have to narrow it. We have to talk about a specific group or a specific type or a specific place. So specificity is what narrows your topic. What exactly are you looking for? But you can't determine what is your topic until you determine what is your focus. So the focus will be, what are we looking at in hunting? Are we looking at marksmanship? Are we looking at seasons? Are we looking at whatever it is? So then when we've narrowed what our particular focus is, we can then move on to what is the scope. So the example that I use is hunting. Everybody is hunting. Some people are hunting iguanas. Some people are hunting agoutis. Some people are hunting manikou. If you're hunting a manikou on your gun, there's going to be a scope. When you look through that scope in the gun, there's only going to be one manikou in your sight. That is your scope. So for your thesis, you have to hone in on exactly what area you're going to look at and what specific aspect of the area you're going to look at. That is your aim. Your aim is to look at this particular thing. The objectives now would be what you hope to accomplish by looking at this particular thing. But we can't just accomplish objectives without first establishing a framework. So the example used in the class was cleaning, because you said you like cleaning. So people clean in different ways. As I said, like to dash a bucket of water and scrub with a broom. But some people, they'll mop. They'll mop with the fabuloso, then they'll mop with the hot water, and then they'll mop with clear water, and that's their process. And then some people will say, well, all I do, I plug in my steamer, and I steam, and I'm finished cleaning. I don't do all of that. And then some people will say, well, I have a Swiffer, and all I do is spray and I wipe. But you will notice that every framework of cleaning needs the type of floor that you're cleaning, the type of cleaning agent that you're using when you're cleaning, the type of utensils or tools or whatever you want to call them while you're cleaning. All of them require different things, and all of them have different costs. They have different effects to your environment. They have different results when they're finished cleaning, etc. and etc. So all of these different little things that we're looking at, these are theoretical perspectives. because each of these results are my particular opinion that makes me feel like this particular cleaning style is best for me. So let's say, for example, I have a child. I don't want my child licking chemicals off the floor, so I might choose a steamer. But then I may choose a steamer and can't afford a steamer, so I'll have to look at other options. So you see, each theoretical perspective is just simply results-oriented, data-oriented, and they use the research from these different theoretical perspectives to determine framework. Now that is just in the theory of what you're looking at. So you're looking at change management, that's just in the theory. So the theoretical perspectives that you use still does not determine the methodology that you will use. Because in your own way of going about your own cleaning and gathering your own research, you also have to have a structured way of doing this thing. So you can't just go mopping out and you have not swept. And some people will say, well, in order to do this type of cleaning, you also need to vacuum, right? So based on the methodology, there's a right way and a wrong way to go about collecting data, right? So when you're collecting your data is going to determine issues, concerns, problems, prospects, gaps, challenges, etc. All of these things will be established from your research. But your approach to the research is what is going to help us to understand the process and the procedure that you use to determine these things. Now, in your methodology, you also need to justify your intention for the research and also why the research is important. So, why do you want to do this? And why is it important? All of that is in your methodology. And by establishing all these things, you can now tell us what is your overall purpose, again, which is your aim, and your objectives in doing this study, as well as why this particular information would be relevant. Okay? So the relevancy of your study determines whether or not it's a good study or a bad study to pursue. Because it's no use collecting data and investing time in doing this if it's not going to be used for anything constructive. So obviously you have to have a real world application to the research that you're doing, not just to get the degree. Okay, so based on the information that we presented, these areas that you're looking at corresponds with the different sections. So remember I told you the introduction is going to give the whole overview. So now that you've already understood all of those things for the introduction, look at how beautifully each section comes in. So after you've done the introduction, which deals with the topic, the focus, and the scope, and all of the other things briefly mentioned, we're now going to expand on those things. So you'll find after the introduction, the next section is the literature review. The literature review is just like English B class. You read some storybook and then you present the themes in the storybook. All of the different theorists that you encountered, those are the literature books. And their themes would be the specific issues, concerns, problems, prospects, gaps, challenges, and so on. So whichever problem match the problem you identified, that's a theory that you're going to use. So now, in the literature review, which is like the critical analysis, you're just going to say, what is the theme that was presented and why I think this theme aligns or matches what I'm studying. But it's not enough for you to just say, I like this person, I like this person, I like this person, because then it's slant. Right? I could even say it's biased because you're just looking at one area. So it's very good in your literature review to at least look at other perspectives and then say, well, okay, I did not choose this one because I like this one better. So that's what you're looking at in the literature review. You're just comparing and contrasting different theoretical perspectives or different themes or different opinions from different theories. This research now is what is going to inform what you're going to do. So your research questions and all of that comes out of these themes. When we're going to the methodology now, that is where this section comes in, where you have to look at theories on how to do the data collection part. So if you're going to do questionnaires, there's going to be a specific theorist who said this questionnaire works well to gather information you're looking for. But in order to do this questionnaire, you have to have this, you have to have that. Now remember I said do not collect primary data. Focus on secondary data. So your methodology would mainly be, would you look at a policy? Or are you going to look at an organizational structure? Or are you going to look at, let's say in Hofstede's cultural dimensions, there's a rubric. So am I going to use this rubric to analyze this thing? So that's what the methodology would look like in a master's level thesis, because you're not collecting primary data. If you collect primary data for your own opinion, that's wonderful. But mainly for lower level theses, it is secondary data. Why, you may ask? Because in order to collect data, there are a list of things that you have to identify. We call them gaps. There are numerous gaps. And one of the biggest gaps that can put you in a lot of hot water is the ethical gap. So whether or not this thing was ethically done, whether it is legitimately done, and so on. In a lower level study, you do not do that because you do not have a PhD fellow to guide your research. So when you have a PhD fellow, it means that you're a PhD researcher. You have so much experience on how this thing is done. You are basically asking people questions under the auspices of maybe the World Bank or the UN or a university. So however, the census is being done by the government. You can't just go around asking people how much fridge you have in the house. You crazy? So after you've established what is the specific structure you're going to be examining, St. Vincent from what you already said, it is the 8-step process. There are going to be other things within that 8-step process you have to look at. So for example, if the first step is awareness, what are the ways that awareness is brought? Right? So you might look at the DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion aspect of employment and so on. Or you may look at the organizational structure to see whether it's an autocratic or a democratic leadership style, structure, so on. So whatever rubric you're looking at, these are the things that you're assessing in your methodology. And if it's an 8-step process, you have to make sure that each process that you're looking at, you have a specific marker or measurement or metric that you're going to use to determine St. Vincent, where St. Vincent stand in that order. After you do the methodology, then you will do your data. So when you present your data, it's just like a report. Based on the analysis of this and that, St. Vincent is here, there, and nowhere, or somewhere, or everywhere, right? After you do that now, the analysis part will be what I think about this structure. That is where these old theorists are gonna come in. Because if you realize that majority of the directives come from the top down, there's going to be a theorist talking about top-down leadership. Now, how you collected the information about St. Vincent being top-down leadership, that can be different. Like I said, Hofstede does that. But when it comes to examining leadership style, you may find, a different person. Like, you had called some name. I think it was Leeson or something. But you had given a name about a specific leadership style and what is ideal in what setting and so on. So those theoretical perspectives are going to come back in your analysis. But the methodological theories that you present, or the methodological framework you present, that's different. That's about how you collect the data. So how you collect the data and how you analyze the data, those theorists will come back to be your guiding light, or your beacon, right? Or rather, your scope. After you do that, you have your presentation of finding. That will be an expository piece. I can guide you more on what type of expository you should be writing, whether it's compare and contrast, or whether it's cause and effect, or so on. But I cannot determine that now because we haven't established all of these things before. So that's where we are now, right? Where we're at the methodology. And I asked you to review the 21 questions that were given. The 21 questions basically outline the information that you're supposed to have in the different sections of the thesis, but it's not in a very schooly type of way. Each question is going to guide you or extract or evoke out of you the information here so that I can annotate, could brainstorm and annotate our ideas, create a nice concept map, make sure that our outline is crisp, get an excellent thesis statement, establish sound research questions, and boom, we're good to go. So hope this review is helpful. You can replay it whenever you don't understand a section or you need to review something or go over something. But this is basically where we're at, and I am looking forward to our next session where we get the outline finalized. You have a wonderful day, and thank you.